All right, welcome back. I'm glad to be back, really. So, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on. Um, People probably been wondering where I am. If somebody's been following for a while, we had several good videos in a row, and then it just kind of stopped. And so, wanted to explain a little bit, but also, that'll be what this video is about is just that stuff happens and you get knocked down and you got to get back up. If anybody's ever ridden a bike, you fall off the bike, you got to get back on. If you fall off a horse, you got to get back on that horse. You got to keep going. So I don't want this to be a pity party. I don't want this to be, poor me. I'm trying to make excuses or anything else. But I just had to shift my focus, and priority was not making these videos and podcasts. Priority had to take on a few different roles. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what has been going on, and then how I responded to some of that, and what I had to do. And I think that it's really important for any business owner to realize. I mean, I guess it's just anybody, right? But business owners especially, like, things happen. You think things are running along smooth. You think things are going really well, and things happen, and you have to respond to it. Sometimes when it rains, it pours. It all kind of comes in waves. And so the first was that my dad worked with me. So it's a small family-run business, and years ago, my dad had some health problems, and he wanted to get onto our company insurance. And basically, I told him, hey, in order to do that, you've got to be a full-time employee. You got to put in 40 hours a week. And so he said, well, what can I do? What can I start doing? So he came in, started doing some things, mostly on the crew. That was what we needed at the time. He started tree climbing. He started doing bucket work. He started fixing things. He was running a crew, and really it just kind of led into more of a sales type position. We don't really tend to use that word. I mean, that is what it is. But it just kind of sounds dirty. It just sounds like a like a used car dealership with the slick back hair and the gold chain and everything. But so we use the word arborist representative, or words arborist representative, to really describe our sales approach, because it's not so much that we're there to sell somebody something, as it is that we're going to, talk about trees, talk about our boar culture, talk about what needs to happen, what the right thing to do is. Anyway, so this isn't about that. But my dad was my sales guy, and so we're small enough to where I didn't have 10 sales guys. I had one. And so if he couldn't get to something, then it was me. And so ultimately what happened is he started having some health problems, and, he was out a little bit. I filled in, wasn't a big deal. One night he went to the emergency room in the middle of the night, and, they ran some scans, and they came up with some pretty bad news. Set him up with an oncologist, and he had tumors all down his spine. Tumors might not be the right word. I think it was growths or lesions. Lesions, I think, was it. So anyway, it was pretty bad, and so the oncologist said he had stage 4 prostate cancer, and really, it was pretty bad because it had metastasized into his spine, into his skull, all over the place. And so, with everything that was there, even though with some of the, the positive messages from the doctors, we, me, my brother, sister, mother, like, we were like, man, he's a goner. Like that, we're preparing for the worst, because it was pretty ugly, and his health was really down. He couldn't really do much. He had lost his appetite. He was losing weight. Like, it was pretty rough. And so, so I've got concerns just because he's my dad. We've got that relationship no matter what his job is. But then to kind of pile on, like, that's also my sales guy. And I hate to be blunt like that, but that, so I've got my dad out, but I've also got my sales guy out. It's the same guy. But so what happened was it put more on me because I was having to go out and fill in, but instead of filling in one day or an hour here or there, it was, full time. So I'm full time sales guy all of a sudden. So that was a little bit of a shock to the system and wasn't what I was used to. I'm still trying to do things, run the business, but that was an issue. And then my mom works for me too. So like I say, it's a small family run business. So she works in the office and does payroll and accounting and pays bills and things like that. And then, so she is missing work to be with him and go to his appointments and take care and nurse him. And she's, of course, an emotional wreck because, she thinks her husband's dying. And so ultimately, I'm not trying to get too personal with you and tell everybody's story, but it created some workflow issues and it created some personal life issues, and so that really kind of changed priorities on how things were done pretty quickly. Um, we also had you've met my general manager. I'm not here to talk bad or anything else. But I think ultimately what happened was his relationship with my plant healthcare director kind of soured and ended up, and I'm not trying to place blame, but ended up my plant healthcare director left for another position somewhere else, and so now, I'm doing sales and still trying to do my regular job, and I've got plant healthcare in my lap. So I'm like, man, that's a lot going on. And then my general manager ended up leaving, and so I think things kind of work out for a reason. I think everybody is happy where they are. We left on good terms. But he has got a passion for doing some things that now he's able to do, some missions and stuff like that. And so really awesome. I'm glad for him. Everything worked out, but ultimately it put more on me. So I had somebody in there that was being able to run the day to day stuff, plus my sales guy, plus my plant healthcare guy, plus some office work. And so a whole lot fell on me. I wasn't looking to complain. I wasn't looking to blame. I wasn't looking to make excuses. But ultimately, what happened is it put more on me. I had to just dive back in. I just had to work harder, and I just had to make sure, to not only do those jobs, those functions of the business still had to be done, but I was also focused on rebuilding, rehiring, all right, because I knew that I couldn't do all these jobs forever. So let's get some more people in there. And on top of filling in, doing those jobs, now I'm going back and trying to figure out, how we can refill these positions, how we can put somebody in there. So anyway, whole lot going on. We had some great people that stepped up. Especially Troy really stepped up and started running a lot of our sales. But again, that took him out of his role. So I was really grateful that he was able to fill in there. But things were sliding the wrong way. That wasn't what we really wanted. So we ended up hiring a certified arborist that just happened to move here out of Atlanta. Things just kind of worked out and really kind of fell into place. And I even kind of expressed concern when I was hiring him. I was like, man, this just seems like kind of too good to be true. Like, what's going on here? You're trying to come in and steal our business or something, And so anyway, we were able to just kind of lay it all out there. And he was like, no, man, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to work. And so anyway, so he is doing our sales now. He is our main tree side arborist representative. I can still fill in where necessary. Troy can still fill in where necessary. We've got a lot going on, and we really need somebody to take that job on full time and take that off of me. So we have that. Then, of course, once he came in, I had to do some training to make sure that he got that. So just, everything takes time. Everything, took focus away from where it was somewhere else. But Again, I could see the future. I could see like what was going to happen. Like, okay, this is temporary. This is what we have to do, to really get this done. It certainly took time away from this and what I was trying to do on treebusiness.com and helping other people. I had to kind of put some of that on pause. But it also took time away from family. And, I regret that. You won't ever get those hours back. But I just knew like this is a sacrifice, and I had to make the sacrifice so that things would get back to like they were or even better. And so, I was still able to do some things. I was still coaching my daughter's soccer team. I was still spending time, with family, but it definitely took more time to do the things that I needed here. So anyway, I've got some notes here. Oh, I've got a few rental properties, and one of the rental properties had a long-term tenant move out, and not that they did anything wrong, but it was time to do a kitchen and bathroom remodel, and trying to oversee that, deal with that. I had some good people helping with that, but it's still, it was just one more thing to do. Rental properties, business, couple kids, couple dogs. It's just everything piled up, and this had to take a back burner for a little bit. So it was just a matter of making priorities and being intentional about that, and saying, you know what, like I'm going to have to step away for a little bit. And so here we are. We're getting back into it. We've got a whole list of new videos that are coming up, and I think that you'll really like what we have, what we're working on. I say we because I've got some help, and we got some different people they're going to be bringing in. Next one's going to be Rick Miller again, so y'all know Rick, but great guy, and we're going to be talking about employment, kind of how that works, what is an employee versus a contractor, and all that kind of stuff. And so getting into the weeds with that, I think that's something that every business owner really needs to go over. But we're going to be doing that on the next video. I'm not really looking to place blame or say that like make excuses or anything like that. I wanted to lay it all out there, and I think it's important that like somebody might be looking and go, man, he's got his stuff together. He really knows what to do. Like, man, or you might be, kind of the poor me, oh my God, man, how am I ever going to be able to do all these other things that everybody else is doing because they don't know what it's like. I got this going on at home. I got this going on at work. I got these many things. A hurricane hit my neighborhood, or a tornado, or a earthquake, or, there's all kind of things are happening all the time. And I just think it's important to just, figure out what priority is, and then just, take care of those high priority items. If there's something that needs to be put on the back burner, let's put it on the back burner. Won't forget about it forever. If you've got goals, you've got dreams, let's make sure that we can still circle back to it. But it's a matter of just prioritizing that time to make sure that things are good. So what else happened was we've got some labor pressures here. You've probably recently seen the immigration enforcement issues, which has taken a lot of Hispanics out of the workforce. We're not here to talk about politics. A lot of those are really great guys and girls, but at the end of the day, they were working. Those were people that were in the field working, and when they're removed, it creates a void where somebody else needs to fill. And so you have businesses that are or homeowners, or whatever it is, saying, hey, we lost our guy, and we need somebody to fill this void, and so we have a project going on, and we've got to pay really well to attract somebody in, from somewhere else. So there's this kind of pull for employment. But even before that, we were already seeing that, especially in my market. We've got a big airplane building facility, a big aluminum facility. They're starting a big interstate bridge, so they're starting to pull people from these other jobs, and for the most part, most of these people are local, and they're just switching jobs from working from one job to another. They're not pulling people in from out of town. There are going to be people that move here from out of town to do some of these jobs, but a lot of these are local talent, and so these other companies are pulling people, and so in order to do that, they're offering them great wages, great benefits, good package, good career opportunity. And so if we're going to compete with that, if we're going to keep the people that we have, or attract new people in, then we have to be able to compete with that. And so we started looking at that. We did lose a few of our people. Some of this is dating back a pretty good ways. So there was a hurricane that came through that tore up the Carolinas and the edge of Florida, and so a lot of people went and chased those storms. We lost a few guys that decided it was a good idea to leave our company and the safety and security that we have and go chase those storms for some quick money. And I tried to explain to them that that was short gain, and they had to really think about long term where they were going to be. And ultimately, they made that choice. They went and chased that quick dollar, and then once it was over, then they were calling, asking for their jobs back. And some of these guys, man, I would have really liked to have back, but at the end of the day, we were like, hey, we're not going to have a revolving door. If you choose to leave to go chase a storm and make money, then when you get back, your job's not going to be waiting for you. And so, we just don't want that revolving door. We don't want people that are just going to leave and come back and leave and come back. And so the people that stayed, the people that stayed here, they still have their jobs. And we worked all winter. We didn't miss a lick. A lot of these guys were starving because the companies they were working for didn't have the hours or didn't have any work, and so they were really struggling. So anyway, not trying to get too far into their business, but it those things happen, and we had to figure out like how are we going to rebound from that. Like one of those guys was about to be foreman, and we needed another foreman put in place, and now we're like, man, we got to kind of start over. And so, we lost some people due to some different situations, some different people moves, different people take different jobs, whatever. So we started looking at like, what can we do to, keep our people? That was one part, was keep our people here without them, saying, hey, I need to go somewhere else because it's a better environment, better culture, better pay. That's a big one, maybe better benefits, retirement, whatever else. So we started looking what everybody else has. And so part of what we did, it was pretty tough to do, but we upped our wages for everybody that we had. And then part of that was too, like we needed to hire new people in. So I couldn't really hire people in at a higher wage while our guys that were already there were, at a lower wage. So basically, we upped everybody's wage considerably. We still have our career ladder in place. We still have opportunities for growth, but basically we just upped the base pay on everything. And so, most people got a pretty significant raise, and it's worked out pretty well. We are also able to hire in some really good people that were basically what I was just saying. We're hiring people from other companies. They're not all tree services. For the most part, they're not tree services. They're different industries. But we're hiring good people that already had jobs, that were showing up every day, doing what they're supposed to, following the rules. They're not on drugs, whatever. So, those are the people that we want. And so when they see the money that they were making at their current employment versus what they could make with us, they were like, hey, this is a no-brainer. And on top of that, we've got a very clear, direction and opportunity for career advancement, and, all written out right there in front of them. We go over some numbers, and very common comment was, wow, I'm not making this much money now. I've never made this much money in my life. Like, this looks like an awesome opportunity. And so, they get in and we show them that. And obviously we want them to continue building up, their skills, their abilities, their certifications, continue, moving up, because we need people to be able to move up in an organization and start another crew. And so, we are constantly growing, and with that growth creates opportunity. I've talked about it before, where like if we only had one crew and we only had one foreman of that one crew, then if you're on that crew, then how are you going to move up into that foreman position? And really, you have to wait for that guy to die, or you got to kill him, or you got to get him fired, which creates some drama or whatever. And so it's not really a good opportunity for advancement when you only have that one crew. And so be thinking about that with your people. What kind of opportunity do they have for advancement? And so if we have multiple crews, then somebody can move up. There's a lot more opportunity. But even if we have a fixed number of crews and somebody else comes up and now they become foreman, well, guess what? They don't have to take over foreman role from another crew. It enables us to start another crew, which is really what we need. We need to start a whole nother crew, so that we can keep going and we can perform the work that we're already under contract to perform. So we're in a spot where we have to keep the people that we have. We really want to do that. And then we really want to hire in new people that are going to be a good cultural fit in our organization. Unfortunately, a lot of those are not trained tree professionals. And so, anybody that's been in the business long enough knows that, your average tree guy is probably not a good cultural fit at my organization. Might be somewhere else. But we're not going to make exceptions and say, okay, well, that guy's a really good cutter, he's a really good climber, or whatever. Like, oh, we'll just let him drink on the job, or we'll let him come in stoned, or we're not worried about his drug test, or whatever. Like, we're not going to do that. So what we've been doing is spending a whole lot of time bringing in people that don't have any tree skills at all, and then putting them through our system and training them and pulling them up, which is great. And we've got a lot of really great success stories that have come out of that. And, certainly there is a value in experience. Somebody that has gone through and experienced a lot of, a seasoned veteran is going to have a whole lot of tricks up his sleeve. They're going to remember things like, well, that didn't work out, so never do that again. But we've created a system so much that, like, we have systematized it. We have created a system to where, like, somebody can come in with zero experience, learn these skills, and then move up to this level, and then learn a new set of skills and move up to this level. And so, we continue that going, and we'll go over career ladder one day. I think that would be a really good topic, just to, talk about all the way through, how that works, how it's structured, the program, and everything else. But just to let you know, like, we've got that system in place. We're putting people through it, but it also takes time. And so either somebody on that crew has to be training and working with them and mentoring them, or it has to be somebody else. So like our safety director does a lot of that. And so, we're investing a lot into getting new people, really, really where we need to be. All right, so that's kind of that. Oh, plus some bonuses. So we added a bonus structure to attract people in that already have the skills that we want, and also have the cultural aspects that we want. And so it's a very select few, but for those few that meet that criteria, that's worth something. And we can't very well expect them to start out at a lower rate than, say, they are now. We've certainly had people start at a lower rate and then see the future and go, hey, well, very quickly I'm going to be, at this level or this level or this level. So, there's that. But we developed a structure to where we can pay like a sign-on bonus, for people that are very valuable, that their skill set is going to be where we need them to be very quickly, because there is value to that. So like I said before, there is value in experience, but we just have to be careful. So it's a mix, because we want some experienced guys to come in, but we're also not just going to take an experienced guy off the street and just make him foreman. So I've also got some involvement with a nonprofit. I've got some knee problems. I've got, my own issues. So You know, all these kind of things add up. But what I really want everybody to get out of this is just that things are not going to go smooth always. They're not going to be perfect always. You're going to have hiccups. Just when you think things are going really well, things are going to break. You know, you're going to have a truck break, and an hour later, another truck break, or maybe your backup truck. You know, so those things happen, and you know, you just got to be able to get back up. You got to be able to get going. And if you look at the statistics in business, how many businesses fail, it's really sad. But if you look at like the people that make it, and you start studying like what are they doing different than the people that fail. And if you had a business and it failed, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk down to you or anything else. But if you look at the guys that are running successful businesses, they've got grit, right? They've got determination. When everybody else tells them that can't be done, or that's stupid, or you know, you can't do it that way or whatever, like we in general, we me and you know, the others that are doing it, like we're just not going to let something pull us down. We're going to figure it out. And so we've got that figure it out mentality where, you know, it's going to happen. So there is no option to lose, right? I think Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best, you know, when he was talking about, you know, lifting weights and becoming, you know, Mr. Olympia or America or whatever it was. You know, somebody asked him, you know, what was your backup plan? And he was like, I didn't have a backup plan. He was like, that was it. Like, that was the plan. There was no backup plan. And so, you know, that's kind of my mentality in it, is just like, man, you know, as far as my business goes, like it's gonna happen. It's gonna work. We're gonna keep doing it because there is no out. There is no hanging my head or you know, looking back and going, well, that didn't work out. You know, we tried. Like, no, sorry. Like it is going to happen. And so, you know, we have made it through economic downturns. We've made it through, you know, recessions. Made it through COVID. We've made it through, you know, wars. Like, you know, we are going to keep going. And so if it takes changing things that we're doing, if it takes even moving, like whatever it takes, like we're going to keep going. And so just keep that in mind. Like, you're going to feel crazy. You're going to feel like, man, is this really worth it? Like, I'm going to put all this time, energy, maybe money into it. And like, where is this going to lead me? But if you have grit and you keep going, then it is going to work out. You are going to make it work out. But it's not a matter of just like, if you check a few boxes and you spin the wheel, like it's going to work. It takes a whole lot more than that. But I would say that's probably the number one thing, is just having you know, having the ability to just keep going even when everything is stacked against you, and just, you know, bet on yourself. So anyway, I've got some good stuff going on. If you want to see a new topic, shoot that to me. You know, put it in the comments, and you know, we're going to try to get to everything. We're bouncing around a little bit because some of the topics are going to be kind of advanced, and you know, maybe that's not what a new arborist needs. But I also think we've got a you know, a diverse audience. So we've got I know some of our audience are experienced arborists that have, you know, much bigger, better companies than mine. They're going to get bored with the basic stuff. I've got some people that are, you know, one-man shows that are trying to break out into a second crew. You know, there's people that are trying to get over that $1 million mark. There's somebody that's working for someone else and just kind of dreams of starting their own business, or maybe they're doing something on the side or whatever. So, you know, there's all different, you know, audience members, I guess is probably not the right word, but ultimately they're all different types. And so some of this stuff is going to be fairly basic. I hope it's still interesting. But some of this is just going to be, you know, really advanced, you know, talking like supplemental support systems, you know, performing tree risk assessments. But ultimately, you know, we're doing like very advanced risk assessment, and, you know, doing things that a lot of arborists are not doing. And so, you know, we're going to talk about that, you know, what it looks like, how to perform it, how to do it, you know, and so hopefully we can really keep that bar high and talking about some pretty cool stuff that every listener is going to benefit from. So if you haven't already, start reading. We had an episode on that on listening on Audible or Spotify or something. There's AI apps that'll read stuff to you now, but start reading or start listening to podcasts, start watching videos. Like just engage. And if you really think about it, like the more that you invest in yourself, then the better off you're going to be. So think about like two people on Wall Street. One of them just kind of like thinks he's a genius and he just figures things out on the fly. Another one studies finances like all the time. He is figuring things out. He is looking at things. Well, who do you think is going to ultimately be better with that money? They may have some short wins or short losses or whatever, but long term, somebody that's studying the business that they are in is going to do much better, and in business in general. But studying the business that you're in, I think, is really important. So bet on yourself. And your investment is going to really pay dividends more than what you can invest in anywhere else, just by betting on yourself, where you are in control. You put your money into Coke or Pepsi or Tesla or whatever, you have no control over what they do. Actually, we'll take that back. You get a vote because you're a stockholder, but your vote is like one in millions, so it barely counts. But you control what happens in your business. So just start working on that. So all right, I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like I am just rambling now. But now you know a little bit better about what's been going on, where I've been. I didn't fall off the face of the earth, and things are going to go turn around. Oh, good news! Good news. So my dad is done with chemo. His latest PSA level, which is the stuff in the prostate, was 0.01, which is like almost zero. Which the normal prostate's higher than that. So his is doing great. So his cancer is in remission. I don't know if it's ever completely gone, but he's doing really well. And they treated it very aggressively. He was not been able to work, really since he's been out dealing with all the chemo and all the different stuff that they've got him on, the hormone treatment and everything else. But that's great news. Maybe at some point he'll come back to work. I've already told him, like, man, if I had cancer, and I had a, kind of a, I don't know, second chance to go do things, like I probably wouldn't want to be coming and working, like that. But he also loves his job because he gets to go talk to people. And so that's what he's good at, is because he just likes talking to people. So I hope to do an episode pretty soon on sales and kind of talk about, what works, what doesn't work, or, the way we do it, different things like that. So we've got some different stuff on taxes. I know that's super exciting, right? There's going to be, I've got a whole list, so I can't think of what that list is right now, but man, there is a whole list of topics that we have. So, I went with the crew and did a huge live oak tree. We did supplemental support on. I've got some great video on that. So we're going to show that on some supplemental support video or videos. Might have to do more than one for that. Brace rods, cables, stuff like that. So anyway, we got some good stuff coming, and thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.